Okay, so this is a presentation. This is the beginner's presentation on volume profile. As I said earlier, D-Man went through this yesterday on a high level, and I'm going to go through it on more of a basic level. We'll do it a little slower. You can ask questions, and we can go from there. So, what is volume profile? Volume profile is a dynamic indicator that shows the relationship of volume traded to price levels. Okay, so we have volume on the bottom of a chart, which is our traditional volume that we see on almost every chart that comes up in every trading system. You know, whether you're running E-Trade or you're running Toss or running TradingView, you get volume on the bottom, which really only tells you volume based on time, right? Volume profile shows you volume traded in relation to price. So this is volume based on price. And that helps you with support and resistance levels and to find out where the traders are. So this is what volume profile looks like on a chart. You've all seen it because we all have it up, but this is a good example. You have a value area high, value area low, and then you have the point of control, which is the largest piece of volume in that area. Okay, so volume profile levels, VP nodes, right, are created during accumulation and distribution phases of trading, and they are called value areas. Okay, you'll hear us say value area. You'll hear us say a VP node, VP levels, but they're created through these accumulation and distribution phases within trading, where we get essentially a consolidation of price levels, right? And we get support and resistance zones within that consolidation. And so when we're talking about consolidation, if you look at this on the screen, you know, what does this kind of look like if we get this move up and then we get this consolidation here? What does that kind of start to look like? Obviously, this drawing is a little crude, but what we went over yesterday. And sorry for the long pause there. I'm waiting to see if the screen, the delay is massive at the moment. So I'm waiting to see if there are any answers coming through. Yeah, it's our TPS pattern, right? It's our potential woodpecker pattern. Now I could have this drawn a little bit differently so it looks even more, but we have our trend moving up, we have our high and pullback and consolidation within that area, right? So that's these value areas are essentially, you know, our TPS pattern, right? So within our TPS pattern, we can look for volume profile levels because we're creating a value area. Traders have found value in this area and we're consolidating. Right? So what do those chart patterns typically, you know, look like? Here are just four, and tomorrow we'll get into chart patterns and technical analysis. But you know, we get an ascending triangle or we get a descending triangle within that value area, right? We can get a head and shoulders. We can get an inverted head and shoulders, which is exactly what I'm playing on Adobe, right? I'm playing this inverted head and shoulders for a reversal on the bottom side of the pattern. And these are value areas, right? So within that value area or VP node, as I talked about, we have a value area high, that's usually resistance, value area low, which is your support, and then your point of control, which we all talk about quite a bit, which is where most of the people are, the largest point of volume within that value area or VP node. So this is what it looks like on a chart. Obviously, this would be if it was lined up on the left side of the chart and not the right side of the chart. A lot of us have it on the, sorry, this is what it looks like on the right side. A lot of us have it on the left side, so it doesn't get in the way of current price. Right? And so within that node, we have our value area high. We have our value area low. Right? Value area high is our resistance if we're trading within this pattern or within this node. Value area low is support. And then our point of control is where most of the people are within that pattern. And then when you get these stacked in together, right? You obviously on a chart you have different areas of accumulation and distribution. So they start to stack on each other and you get value area above another value area, and you'll trade within one and then break into the next, right? And this is what that can look like with a gap into the middle. And when you move outside of this value area and into moving up towards the next one, right? The value area low here, whoops, I'm sorry about that. Let's see what happened. The value area low here of the upper node, what does that become if you're trading in this lower node and you break out of the value area high, you break resistance, right? That value area high, if you come back to it, will act as what? Can anybody tell me? Old resistance becomes... And again, I'm sorry, there's that delay, so I'm waiting for chat to come through. But as you break that resistance level, if you come back to it, it becomes support. But then what is the support level within the VP node above actually becomes or can become resistance, depending on you know how the market is moving. Is it going to blow through that area? Is it not? If it does enter the pattern above, then as it comes back to test it, then it becomes support, right? If it breaks through and tests it, it becomes resistance, right? Those lines change based on whether we're above it or below it. And then these point of controls many times will come into the pattern and we'll come up to that point of control and we'll find some resistance, and it can roll from there. So there's really 3 points to watch within each node, and those are key to be able to mark up on your charts, right? And so what does VP look like on an actual chart? So let's go look at an actual chart. Okay, so when we're looking at actual charts, let's look at Apple. Okay, there's not a lot of lines here on Apple that I've already pre-drawn, but you can see here, let me make that a little bit smaller. Let's go maybe 30%. You can see here, we have lines on the left here. We have VP nodes, and it's less clean when you're looking at an actual chart because the market just doesn't move in these clean, consistent ways. But it can really start to give you points to pay attention to, right? So this is a 1 minute chart, but let's mark up, for those of you who have VP on your charts, let's mark up Apple, right? So I'm going to come out to maybe a 10 minute. And right now I only need to see the people within the area that we're trading. right? You can see some patterns that let me get rid of all the lines. So every line we add is new. Okay. So you can see we've got this gap up. We've actually come in and tested that gap level, right? We've closed the gap. We've created a new gap by closing that gap, and we're just about to move into it. This could be a nice scalp here. Hang on a minute. See, we've tested once, twice. We're testing the third time. How are ticks at the moment? Sorry, a little potential live trade opportunity. This definitely would have been better to get back in down here, but we're either going to break through and into the gap, or we're going to triple top and roll. Although triple top is less common. And it looks like we've found resistance. Okay, so back to marking the charts up. So if we go back out, look at the line I just created in this VP node here, right? We're looking at this larger VP node. Let's get rid of this for just a second so we don't. Okay, so a large VP node is being created. Let's get a little closer. Within this pattern here. Okay. So within that, why is this? Okay, within this pattern, you can see this node by itself at the moment. We have a high and we have a low. We've kind of pierced through that. And this is kind of, VP is a little bit more of a science, right? It's not, it's an art. It's not a perfect science. Being able to find where these levels line up with the chart as well. You know, you're not going to come all the way down here to where VP completely stops because we kind of spiked through and came back in. And so on most charts you'll get, and I can turn this on and see how accurate I am. Most charts have the value area high and value area low. That's not going to do it right for me. They'll give you that within 70% of the point of control. And so you'll get these areas that that are not, they don't feel like they're quite at where we get to zero in the gap. But then we have some areas here within this node. You know, I'm going to make that red because that's clearly the point of control, right? And we're above this point of control. We're going to see another little piece of support there if we come back, right? And within this node, we've drawn that volume profile. So if we reject here, right? If we reject here off of resistance, which it tested it, pulled back, and might try to push through now, right? And then this, the way we would watch this too is we'd also be watching what's the SPY and the Qs doing, right? So here's the SPY, here's the Qs. Okay, so Qs are not testing their day high yet. They're just up here testing VWAP, right? SPY, same thing. Same thing is SPY's not even testing VWAP just yet. But we're seeing a potential push in the Qs up through VWAP, which is then we would also watch the ticks, which is not up on this chart, to see if they are pushing. And that helps us decide whether we think a breakout, which now you see is happening. Okay, now let's watch this breakout on a 1 minute, right? So if you were watching my presentation yesterday, a lot of times we'll get a breakout and retest, a quick one on the 1 minute, and then you'll get a larger one. what I'm looking for is abnormally high volume on a breakout. And I don't feel like we're there, right? This volume candle isn't abnormally high. And so I don't know what to think of this breakout yet. But if you wanted to play this breakout and you missed the scalp, I'm betting this 1 minute comes back down into this area for at least a quick retest. Let's see. And if it holds and we move up, and the ticks aren't doing all that much. If we check the Qs have pushed through VWAP, which is a bullish sign. I'd like to see it get over this clump of people right here. Right? You see that? This clump of people right here that are just above VWAP. I'd like to see them get up and over. Let's go back to Apple. I still haven't seen an exceptionally high volume push. Now we're watching for that retest. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with chat too. Okay, let's see if this is a retest of that level. See if there's a retest and a go. Sorry, I got sidetracked. A little live trading opportunity. I watch primarily the ticks. The VIX is more of I don't watch that for a quick 1 minute day trade, 1 minute chart day trade. Okay, we've gotten our test. Now let's see what happens. Okay, you can see it came in and it tested that level. And then here I'm kind of watching the ticks and watching the overall market to see if we can get this push or if everything starts to look weak. And then so where could this go if the market has to pick up too. So every trade you take, as long as you're in a market dependent name, unless it's diverging strongly from the market, right? The overall market has to be able to assist in a convincing breakout, right? Unless you're diverging. So if you're playing Apple, obviously it's a tech company. You're going to watch the Qs to see if we can get some convincing buying and a strong move up in the Qs. Who was asking how many contracts Nate bought? Neo, that's a good question. Neo's asking, how do you play Nate Bear's play if it's already moved past his buy price? Do you buy at the current price if it's still within risk reward range, or wait for a pullback? That's the rub, right? That's the big question. If it's already moved past his buy price and it's starting to get extended, I always recommend waiting. But that has to come from you. That that choice is yours and what your risk parameters are. I usually recommend not chasing. A lot of times if you set a level, if you're late to his alert and you set a level and you say, okay, well, I want to get into Apple at 189.60, then you set an alert at 189.60, and you just wait for it to come back. And if you miss the trade, you miss the trade. That's how I would do it, because I used to, at the very beginning of learning to trade with Nate Bear or anybody, I would just buy because I had the fear of missing out, right? And a lot of times your risk parameters get thrown out the window at that point. Make sure you know where your stop is. Make sure you know what your risk is. Make sure you know when the pattern breaks down and when you should get out. Don't add to a loser, those kinds of things. Right? So now we're just kind of testing this breakout level. No real conviction in buying yet. The market looks like it maybe wants to go, and you see the Qs are doing the exact same thing, right? On a different, oh gosh, sorry, on a different level, but the Qs here, if I could learn to work my charts. Oh my God. There we go. So even though that's not a breakout level, the Qs pushed up through VWAP, which is always a good over-under level on any day chart. Tested it, pushed up a little bit. You'll always get that quick test once you break that level, and then now they're deciding if they want to go or not, right? So the Qs are doing the same thing that Apple is doing, although Apple is breaking out. Here we go. Ooh, looked like it wanted to go. I don't know if this is helpful watching sort of a live trade idea potential or not. And if this comes back into the pattern, right? If this now support level at 190.45 breaks down, where do you think this is coming? Where do you think, if we come back into this pattern, which it looks like it's about to start doing, I especially don't like this candle with this high wick. High volume, high wick. Okay. So that was a convincing, we call that a fake breakout. Looks like we are trying to work our way back in, but what level on this chart up on the screen, if we convincingly come back into this pattern, where do you think we go to, the first spot we go to? Hey, Nate Bear, what's up? So if we break back into the pattern, 190, 189, yeah, right about 190. Which, if it works its way back in, which let's project out, I don't know, 10 minutes from now. So we're out to this area, right? And we've said, okay, its first spot that it's probably going to come into if we work our way back into this pattern is going to be 190. What would that also line up with? Anyone? If we can get into this, you know, if it works its way back into the pattern, it's trying to hold, but let's talk about, what that means. Well, I agree, but so Art and Kareen said POC, but the true POC of this pattern is 189.75. This is just another level here. The longest one is the true POC, right? Which is down here. But we're talking about this coming into 190 if it breaks back into the pattern, right? Back into this value area. So if it does that, what would that also line up with? Yeah, I'll put it on the chart here. It would also line up with potentially the extension of VWAP. See that? So we have a plan. If this goes and continues its breakout level, and you can see the VP is an art form and not an exact science, because we're playing this as kind of our support and resistance level over under. But, if you were playing this to the exact tick, you'd be like, okay, we broke back in, this thing's failed. The breakout has failed. We're just kind of finding an area, right? That's why it's an art form. Because they're not always, price doesn't come exactly. Sometimes it doesn't. It's amazing. Yesterday it did on Adobe, and it was brilliant. Nevendale, this is there's a POC within this pattern. And this one's interesting because there's kind of a double, right? But the true point of control would be the lower one. That's where most of the volume is. That's a longer node. Or a longer, there's more people right here than there are up here. But now that we're above both of them, then we're in great shape. Most of this node was created by these people right here. But if this were to work back into the pattern, that level and VWAP as the extension continues, that's where I would expect we'd see our first support level. Todd, you said what you struggle with on VP is how far left or right to scroll with each time period. Yeah. And again, that's the art, right? So let's look at this. Let's go further out here. Okay. So let me get rid of the lines. Nope. I always do that. I need to get rid of my drawings. There we go. Okay, so if we're looking at sort of this larger chart, let's look at 5 minute. Okay, you can see we have a ton of people right there, right? At 189.36, maybe a little higher than that. Okay. And I don't know if D-Man talked about this yesterday, but when we're drawing these lines, if I'm above it, if price action is above the line I'm drawing and it's coming down into it to act as support, I'm going to put my line at the bottom side of that longest VP node, or that VP area, right? Because it's coming into support, I want to give myself the best visual representation of where it's going to find. So I'm not going to set it at the top because it's probably going to push through that. And even here at the bottom, you can see today on this gap down, right? We gapped, we pulled a little bit more to that level, and we kind of pierced it, right? We pierced it, not for very long. We regained really quick. But if you had that level on your charts already, which if you were wanting to play Apple, you should have, because that's your largest node, right? That was created by all the trading that happened right here, right? That level was created by all of these people here, all of this consolidation before the gap up. I don't know what VWAP is, Ruby. Where do you see that? Or where have you heard that? Oh, VWAP? VWAP? So, an anchored VWAP. So VWAP is on your charts. It's basically, if we're looking at a 1 minute, it's basically the moving or the dynamic point of control for that day's trading. It's the average. Okay, so if we're looking at this on the 1 minute, it's this dotted line here. And most traders have VWAP on their charts. So let me change the settings on it. Nope, I'll do it from up here. I'll make it thicker. Okay. Ooh. Hang on. I don't need both sides. I don't need upper and lower. And I don't need the fill. Okay. So you see that white dotted line? That's VWAP. And I just use, I don't know what this one is. It just says VWAP. And VWAP really only works on a, up to about a 10 minute chart. After that point, you need to start using anchored VWAP, because it's really only good for 1 day's trading, right? Because you get gap downs. You can see this one went to here, and then boom, it starts here because we gap down. So if I wanted to see VWAP, this is a kind of an important one. So there's also a function called anchored VWAP. So, and usually you'll pick a point where there's news or there's a gap up, and you can find anchored VWAP up here. I have it at the bottom of this section where I would have all my lines. You can see that when it opens up. And you set anchored VWAP, which means you anchor it to the start of news or event or a multi-day section of trading that you want to see, and that gives you sort of that average price for that whole section. Does that make sense? The difference between VWAP and anchored VWAP? Okay, so let's get back to volume profile here. Let me get let's see here. Okay, there we go. So back to the question of time, right? And I can't remember who asked that, Todd. Okay, right? So as we're gapping down this morning, I want to see these people here, right? And I want to see this VWAP. I need more coffee today. This volume profile line, because that's going to act as some support as we're coming down, because these people are important, right? Just like as we're moving up, right? As we move back up, I want to see these people because they're going to give me some resistance, right? And why would these people give me resistance? Can anyone tell me that? The delay is stunning. I'm watching myself on the monitor, on the actual stream, and it's amazing the time difference between what's going on the screen and what I'm actually saying. So this section over here, right? Why do I need to know where our volume profile lines are for this section right here? Yeah, D-Man, I mean, the delay is bad. I just shut a bunch of other rooms to make, I had some other things kind of streaming some new stuff, and I just turned those off because the delay today for me is, I mean, it's almost like 2 or 3. It's almost a full minute, I'd say. So anyway, these people right here, if they were long, right, trying to bounce Apple off of this pullback, right? All this trading that happened in here, and they get gapped down on, what does psychology tell you, right? This is D-Man said this yesterday, and this is really important to understand. Not only why there's a volume profile line here, why there's a lot of volume here, but then also why it happens, right? People that were long in through here and got gapped on are hoping we get back up into these two areas so they can get out break even. So maybe they added on this gap down, or maybe they're just sitting down here hoping, right? And we start to get some buying, we start to get back up into this area, and then they say, oh, thank God, I'm break even, I was underwater, I was worried about my mortgage, whatever, right? And so there's going to be some selling into these levels here, these two levels. So that's why we need to know what these people are doing. Right? And if we can get up and over them, then we need to know not what these people are doing, but where they are. Then we need to know where these people are. Because they're probably going to do the same thing. Maybe they were long here. Crap. They were long and wrong. Down here, maybe they added. They were hoping. Crap. We get a gap down. If we can get back up to here, we're going to see some selling into this area. And potentially, this is why we talk about a value area high, value area low. I got a lot of things going on this chart, right? Potentially, this is going to start, we're going to start seeing some selling or some resistance at this value area low, right? Come on. I want that changed to yellow. I've broken my charts here. And the top end of that area is there. So if we get rid of a bunch of these things, right? You start to see that value area node, this one here, we're going to see some resistance within that node up here, some support down in here, and this is where most of the people are. This is our point of control. So yellow is support and resistance. red is point of control for this node, but we have to get up into that node, right? So being able to mark up your charts prior to getting into a trade, or prior to even thinking about getting into your trade, really helps you understand levels. I have frequently been, because I mark these levels up on my charts all the time, I have frequently been like, oh, I don't know, Nvidia's pulling back, right? It's selling off. It got a downgrade, right? And I pull up the chart, and there's just a red point of control line there, and it's coming into that level. And because I mark up my charts, I can zoom out just a little bit and kind of immediately find where those people are going to be, right? So if you had already marked this level on your chart, this level at 189.40, and you were trading today on this gap down, right? Because that's an important level, a lot of people there, and you were trading today on this gap down. Right, let's put it on a 1 minute. And you see this red line here, but you trust your VP skills, right? I can't see where these people came from. I could zoom out really quick and find out. But I could also immediately say, oh, look, Apple's coming into a level. I'm not sure what that level is, but I'm going to pull up my options chain for a bounce, right? I'm going to put it in my active trader probably. And then I'm going to go, where's that line coming from? And I'm going to go, okay, that looks like, there's a lot of people right there. I think I'm going to take a long off that level and try and bounce it. Right? So one thing you need is a system for marking up your charts and knowing important lines. And so if we go out, the best way to do that, in my opinion, is, so this is the Apple chart again, right? And we're on a 65-minute chart. Now, we're not trading down here at 185.79, right? That's not a super important level to us right now. But if I've come in and I've at least made a line here, and the point of controls, I usually make them red, right? Because that's going to be an important line, or level, sorry, not line. We've kind of got another one here. That's why when you see DMAM just pull up a chart cold of a name that he plays on a regular basis, same with me, a lot of times they can look, there's lines everywhere, and you're like, what the hell are we looking at? It's because we have these lines drawn in so that when we zoom in, or if price action comes down into that level, we know to keep an eye out. Right? We know to say, okay, that's going to be a level. Let me zoom out and find out why that's a level. And so if we were going to do another chart, right? I don't know. Let's pick what's a favorite stock you all like to play? R. Smith. How do I know where these people are? Because I'm using volume profile. And volume profile is volume traded at specific prices. And so that helps me find levels on the chart that we're going to see support and resistance. Does that make sense? Tesla. Okay, Tesla's a good one. Tesla's on my do not trade list. So it probably doesn't have a lot of lines on it. Okay. Let's see, let's remove drawings. Okay, so first thing I would do on Tesla, before I even did volume profile, is we have this massive gap, right? I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to drop in an anchored VWAP at that massive gap, so I know where people are. All right, I zoom out a little bit. You know, for giggles, I might even throw another one on this gap. Right? This is a pretty big gap, so it's not as, you know, I mean, we did kind of bounce off of it here, but I just kind of want to look at, you know, where people are, what the average price is. Okay. Now, within this trading up here, so I'm going to mark the top end of this double top. Okay, can you see this? I'll try and do this slowly. We've got ourselves a double top here, right? I'm going to make that yellow because that's a value area high resistance, right? I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make a line right there at the point of control. And I'm going to make that one red because I always make all my point of controls red. And then I'm going to come in right to about here. Now this is where it becomes more of an art form than a science, in my opinion. I'm going to put a value area low right there. And for me, that level is 277.48. We are coming up into that level right now. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that AV anchored VWAP. And then of course, there's going to be a level right here at 276.29. And this is where, you know, your personal preferences come from. I'm going to make that red, but it's not really, I mean, it is a point of control within, you know, sort of this section. And I'm probably going to put another line way down here at the value area low. And you can see just that absolute drop off in volume. And it lines up with the bottom of this chart, right? So that's on a 5 minute, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to check it on a 1 minute. And I'm going to see if I need to move any lines around. I don't, right? Those all look pretty good based on the 1 minute chart. I might move. I want to see all of these people here. And so you see it changes. So you see this area here. Right now, the red line is on the sort of the POC for that area. But if I start to get rid of the people that are trading right now, because they're not visible range volume profile, okay, then that would move. See, the point of control would move up a little bit. Can you see that? But I want to play everybody since this gap up. So then I'm going to bring it back down. And it's ever changing, right? We're trading within this area. So these lines are going to start moving, right? More volume is being created at these areas. And so in this case, sort of these two areas that we have are divided by one, I guess in my opinion, sort of one value area, high and low. If you really wanted to get very specific, you could go there, and then you could go there. So the lower yellow line is value area high of the sort of the pattern below, and the upper one is value area low of the pattern above. And you can see how they line up with, you know, some support levels. So then you've got your lines, and you can start thinking about trading. So you can see we talked about this a minute ago. We broke, to a certain extent, we broke out of this lower value area. We got into the little bit of a gap in between the two, right? And now we found value area low of the upper pattern is giving us a little bit of resistance, right? You can see that we're bouncing off of that, at least temporarily. Does that make sense? Why is Tesla on my do not trade list? I trade. It is on my do not trade list. I trade it occasionally. Um, Tesla has ripped my face off just a few too many times, and so I put it on what is considered my do not trade list. Give me just a second. I have to respond to a text here. Okay, sorry about that. So we've marked up our Tesla chart, right? If you wanted to get even tighter specifics, you could put in lines for these levels here. You'll see D-Man's charts when he gets really zoomed in. He's got quite a few lines on there. If you're more of a swing trader, you just kind of need some of these key lines. But on names you like to trade, setting up lines and leaving them on there helps you quickly identify areas where you might see some support and resistance. Yeah, Nevindell, this is and I'm sorry I'm not pronouncing that correctly. It's the slower version. Um, as you know, D-Man's brain works so fast. So does his mouth and his pace, which is great. That's not a slam in any way. He can convey a lot of information all at once. I tend to go a little bit slower, or try to go a little bit slower, um, and uh, and a little bit more basic, because I also just don't really understand it at the level he does. He's a savant in that sense. What do the blue and yellow areas stand for? Oh, over here on volume profile, Angela, that's just buyers and sellers. It's really not important. You just need to know the levels, right? The longer volume lines and the shape is the most important. Um, you can change that setting to not show both as well if it's confusing. Where do we do that here? I think it's, yeah, this up and down level. You can just have it show the total, and then it just becomes a blue, right? But it's the same information I need. I don't need to know, how many buyers and how many sellers are at that level. I'm at your speed still. That's great. Yeah. And hopefully, I'm sure D-Man and I are saying a lot of the same stuff. And, something, we both might say the exact same thing. And the way D-Man says it, it'll resonate. And the way I say it, it goes in one ear and out the other, or vice versa. So hearing it two different ways, and at two different paces, um, hopefully one of them, resonates with you, right? Or maybe even both of them, right? Did you guys just hear my dog? He's a weird one. Okay. So then if you want to zoom out further on the Tesla chart, right? Like if we think, okay, we're going to break down. I mean, let's talk about the Tesla chart a little bit more. Sorry, let's get back to the 1 minute. If we break up on the 1 minute. So here's the 1 minute chart on Tesla, right? If we push up into this upper node, right? If we convincingly push up above this, let's call it 278. Okay. Where are we going to start to see potential resistance? Give me some levels. And again, there's a delay, so excuse my silence as I'm just hanging on. Give me some levels here. Okay, we're going to first start seeing we've got 277.75, 279. So 277.75. Yeah. If we get above that, where do we start seeing our first potential level of resistance? Who says 279.94? That seems... So you're thinking that level? There is a potential VP level there. I'm looking for something even earlier than that. 280.65. And again, right, this is where it's a science. 280.65. 280.65, I think we'll definitely see some resistance. But I see our first potential pause, right, or potential pullback happening right around 279.29. Why is that? Can anybody tell me that? I'll put a pink. Let's make it, no, let's make it, yeah, let's make it pink. Why not? No, it's too close to the red. I want it to be, let's make it green. Okay. This level here, I think we'll see our first sort of resistance there. Why? Grayson, do that on your own time. Yes, this is TradingView. The reason I feel like we're going to maybe see a potential first resistance point here is because that lines up well with anchored VWAP from our gap up, and we have a VP line there. Not a major one, but we have a VP line there. And you can see in two different cases right around that level, previously we've found some support. So right in between 279.29 and 278, 279, right around there, I think we will see at least a small pullback in a larger move up. And then, of course, most of you answered, 280.63, which is correct because that's point of control for this larger area. And this just helps you figure out maybe where you're going to see some stalling in some buying or some support in some selling, and to understand what's happening. Right? If everybody was long yesterday, Tesla, coming into this double top and slight roll right into the close. This is the close right here. That's the close, right? Yesterday's close. If people were long looking for this break, right? They've been gapped down on and they've pushed even lower. So yeah, this is where most of the people are at 280, 66. People that are trying to get break even or as close to break even as possible or trying to trade their way out are definitely going to sell there. Yeah, and D-Man says this double top today as well into this area I was talking about is also going to act as resistance. So if we just look at today, right, it's very close to this area I'm talking about, which is the double top over here. So we'll definitely see some resistance into that area if we can break up. You guys have any questions about that? And so you kind of have to, in my opinion, you have to find a system that works for you. So let's see if we go to, somebody said Google, right? You come in here on a clean chart, go out to a 15 or 30 minute. At least this is usually how I start. And I look at all the people that we need to kind of worry about trading against, right? Which is that section there. Well, maybe even more than that. Okay. So again, I'm going to come put an anchored VWAP on this thing, right? This is Google. I'm going to turn off the auto POC so we'll actually make a mark and it won't leave. Okay, auto POC is there. Okay, major level down here. Make that red. Major level down here at 116.80, right? We're going to find support there, right? This pattern completely breaks down at 116, essentially, 116.09. I'm going to make that yellow. Can you see how this pattern completely breaks down at that point? It's the support level for all of these people here. After our move up, right? Our strong move up. And it's also proven support there as well. And you can see on the volume profile, we completely, I mean, there's nothing. There's this little spike down, but there's nothing, right? If we wanted to come in and say, okay, if it were to completely break down, let's say we were playing this for a breakdown, or we wanted to play this for a breakdown, right? We'd find a little bit of support there, and then we would definitely find support there. Maybe a little higher. Right there, right? And that's all these people here, right? So if we break down, we know that move's going to happen probably pretty fast. Because there's just not a lot of volume to support it. Not a lot of people to support it. Okay, so we've gotten those marks in there. This is POC for this section. And you can see on the volume profile side as it comes in, you know, this is going to act as a value area high for this section here. but we're not trading into that, so I am going to remove that. Our point of control for where we are now is here at 123.46. We'll make that red. We have another little section here, which you can see these people created, right? And some of the trading that happened in here. And then I'm going to put my anchored VWAP on it just to see where the average is on this gap up. Okay. So this is a great example of how well anchored VWAP works. This is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many days worth of trading? I don't know, 10 days worth of trading? Somewhere around there, right? And look at how many times anchored VWAP has acted as convincing support. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we broke, right? And then we broke through it. But then what does it become once, you know, old support becomes new what? Right? And it's not perfect, but resistance. Right? We come up, we reject. We come up, we reject. So just knowing those levels doesn't mean it's going to hold, right? The market does what the market's going to do. But this is based on human psychology, right? Human psychology says, you know, people use the 21 EMA as a support level. So when that stock comes into the 21 EMA on that chart, people say, okay, that's a support level, I'm going to buy. So if enough people do that, that becomes a support level because enough people are buying at that level, right? Does that make sense? So anchored VWAP from a gap up becomes support. Why? Because this is some magical area? No, because other people are using anchored VWAP or daily VWAP, right? That's the same thing as an indicator of a potential support level. So it's all human psychology. There's nothing magical about this level or this price of 120.53, right? Nothing magical about it. It just happens to be a level of an indicator that other people that trade use. That's kind of an important thing to remember, right? Same reason why these levels, these volume profile levels, have been created. There's nothing magical about those levels. That's just where most of the people are. And now most of the people are going to either sell or buy at those levels because they're either trying to add to a trade, get out of a trade, use that level, right? So that's what's kind of funny about all this is understanding the human psychology, and that's something I'm constantly working on as well. D-Man always says he trades the trader, right? So then as we draw this up, right, we've got, let's look at this larger node. If we can move up into that, I would put a value area low there and a value area high there. And I would adjust that slightly based on the chart, right? The value area high in the volume profile node, you can adjust slightly based on what the chart's telling you, right? I'm seeing resistance kind of in this level here, quite a bit of it. So I would make that yellow. And you can, I mean, obviously you can do whatever you want there. And then you've got your point of control there within that level. And you can see that as this anchored VWAP has planed out, it's lining up with this value area low within reason. And if we got rid of that Look how many times this value area low has acted as support. Right? So they all kind of work together. Yeah, when I'm setting up anchored VWAP, I'm just going to go to the gap up. I'm just going to click on the candle of that gap up, and it's going to set the anchored VWAP for the remainder of the chart. Right, so if Google gets going and breaks out above its current high, day high, right? Double top of the day high is going to act as some resistance. And you can see that there's actually a VP line that lines up perfectly with that, right? If it breaks through that, we're probably going to see some resistance at 120.52. Yeah, I don't think TOS has anchored VWAP. Frank, yes, I'm posting these to YouTube until we get the ability to record in here, which I think will happen very soon. Yeah, anchored VWAP you have to set up for yourself. But it should be in your choices at the bottom. I star it, but you just choose it and grab the candle that is the gap up candle, and it'll figure it out based on a 1 minute or a 15 minute. It doesn't matter. You just go to that candle and the gap up. You see, back to the human psychology thing, during this day of trading for Google, right? From here to here, VWAP acted as support. So playing things above and below VWAP, long and short, that's a whole nother trading strategy, and it's pretty effective. So the long and the short of it is learning to mark up your charts with volume profile levels, key volume profile levels, helps you react quicker when price is coming into those levels, and make decisions because you've done your work ahead of time, right? The reason D-Man can trade so fast, the reason Nate can trade so fast, the reason I can pick a level and immediately know that it's a good level to take something off of and not have to, because things happen fast, especially on pullbacks, right? Especially on pullbacks to certain levels, you have to be ready to go. Today was a great example. Let's go to Adobe. Right? I had this level at 175 marked on my chart. And this is a 1 minute chart, right? I put it into chat that I was looking for something off 175. And it wicked down here. It was down here for less than a minute. But I got it at about, 175 or 10-ish, somewhere around there. You can put orders, good till cancel orders in there to do that for you. With options, it's a little harder, depending on the system you have, right? But having that level in there and watching the price coming into that level, I was able to quickly pull up my Adobe option chain and take an entry right there. And I took it off into this move up. But I wouldn't have known that was a level unless I had come out here to actually the 195 and really started drawing in my levels. You can see they're on here, right? drawing in my levels and knowing where I wanted to take these positions, or where I thought a good risk reward was. Right? I'm never gonna know that's a good level to try if it's not already on my chart. So when you get into playing these patterns, and this is a TPS, this is a Nate Bear special, right? And we talked about this yesterday and also on Friday, is, you can play, especially on a stock this big like Adobe, you can play within this range, within this value area range, and make a bunch of money. And just make sure you're ready for when that breaks out, and you have, you're taking off positions as you go up, taking off size, and then as it breaks out, you still have pieces on for that larger move. No, Sea Dog, on day trades, I am not. Um, I am not looking necessarily for squeezes. I'm on a day trade. I'm looking for levels, but in most cases, I'm day trading or small overnight swing trades or even a lotto trade, right? Within the larger TPS pattern. So my first trading strategy that I really started to find success was the TPS strategy. And then I started to find success with using volume profile and chart patterns to trade, which we'll go over chart patterns tomorrow, and technical analysis. But now where I've kind of found the pocket in which I like to sit is I search for these 30-minute and above TPS patterns, and then I both day trade and swing within the confines of those patterns using volume profile. It's kind of a long-winded way to say what my edge is. It's a blend of the two. But I am playing squeezes, but usually on a slightly larger time frame. I tried to do this day trading with using the squeeze, on a 5-minute. It works okay. You just don't get the moves that you're taking them off for 10 or 15%, which is, nothing to shake a stick at, but I found more success with this. All right, I think I'm going to wrap the recording here. I'll stick on for any additional questions. That's about an hour and 30 minutes, so that's probably long enough for a recording. And then I'll just kind of stick around for questions for the next 20 minutes or so. But I hope that was helpful. Learning how to mark up your charts so that you are prepared later when price action moves in one direction or the other, or an opportunity presents itself. You're not scrolling out and trying to figure out where all these levels are. I think that's really important in using volume profile within your trading. All right, I'm cutting the recording, and I'll stay here and chat.